I've been doing CrossFit for 7 years, and here are the things that I wish I knew when I started. This is the most important one that I would have told myself if I could go back. You do not need to stop doing other training to focus on strength. That was a huge point of emphasis. I remember for a few years, a lot of coaches and big people in the space kind of were talking about that. They're like, oh, you need to stop doing CrossFit. You need to stop doing endurance. You need to stop doing this. Do a few years of increasing your strength before you get into working on skills and working on your engine. That's garbage. It's not true. You can build both of those things up at the same time. And the fact is, you're not going to get any more stronger by not doing the other stuff. So I love Metcons. I love endurance. I love gymnastics. I love all that stuff. And somehow these people who, they don't know, they're just spewing something they heard somebody else say. They're like, oh yeah, you need to stop doing gymnastics and endurance and running and all this stuff so that you can focus on getting strong and all this. It doesn't matter. Like, you're going to bump up against your genetic potential at some point anyway, whether you do it in conjunction with running or on its own. So I feel like I spent a lot of years purposefully not doing things that I like because I was like, I need to get strong. I need to get strong. I need to get strong. And then I can focus on the other stuff. But the fact is, it's just not true. Even when I did stop and focus on strength, it actually didn't pay off that much anyway. I got a little bit stronger, but I probably would have got a little bit stronger anyways if I had just done CrossFit and still lifted heavy and then done my other stuff on top of it. And I would have also got the benefits of doing all the other stuff. So this was a big topic of discussion for a while in CrossFit, but I think it's garbage. Number 2 thing that I wish I knew, and this might be the biggest one, don't bite chunks out of your calluses. For some reason, when I started, I just had this huge thing of I would just bite these huge chunks out of my hands on my calluses. It kind of became like a little tick. I would just do it all the time. I'd be sitting at work and the calluses just never healed. It just got so bad. My hands looked like when you get out of the water, like where they're all wrinkly and just, it was not good. There's just so much dead skin and stuff. You just need to let your calluses heal, scar up, maybe shave them with like a nail filer or something. And I've seen other people do it. I thought it was like kind of weird, but then I met like a bunch of other CrossFitters and they all kind of did the same thing. I've seen videos of other people doing the same thing. It's just kind of like a thing you do, kind of like biting your nails. The early arm bend in Olympic lifting is kind of propaganda. It's actually not as bad as everyone says it is. And there's a lot of Oli lifters out there who will make a big deal out of it, but it's actually not that bad of a thing in terms of efficiency. And it's definitely not that bad of a thing when it comes to safety. Like, you're not going to hurt yourself just from having a slight early arm bend. The reason I say it's not that bad on efficiency is because you don't actually lose that much energy unless you straighten your arms again. So if you're pulling here and you've got a slight arm bend, then when you come up here, if they stay bent and it's just in a more comfortable position for you to kind of pop your hips and be powerful there, then it's actually not that big of a deal. The problem is if you come here and then straighten again, then you're just bleeding energy out of there. But if you don't do that, then it's not that huge of a problem. If you want to learn something, you need to get good at reviewing your own videos and other people's videos in slow motion. So for example, I wanted to learn how to do bar muscle ups, and I could do them, but they were really ugly and sketchy. And then I watched a video of Craig Ritchie on one of his vlogs doing a bar muscle up, and I saw that he kind of like wormed like this around the bar. I watched it in slow motion a bunch of times, and then I went and recorded myself, noticed what I was doing wrong, and was able to just break it down. The best way to learn movements by far. And I still to this day don't see enough people videoing themselves doing movements. This next one sounds kind of corny, but this is the most important thing you could have to stay healthy. There is nothing that will help you stay healthy as much as this lacrosse ball here. If you know how to use this, this is all you need. 10 minutes with this thing a day, and you will not ever have to. Stretching is garbage. You don't need to stretch. Mobility is garbage. You don't need that. All you need is this and CrossFit. And if you know how to use this properly, it's the best thing you could possibly have for your health and recovery. If I had known how to use this and I could go back and teach myself how to use this in the beginning, I think I would have avoided 2 injuries and probably a lot of stiffness and soreness. I know it sounds corny, but lacrosse ball is the number one most important thing for your health and recovery. This next one might be kind of a hot take, but program hopping is not a bad thing. I remember watching videos and listening to podcasts, and all these people would just talk so down on program hopping. It's really not that bad. CrossFit is supposed to be constantly varied, and whatever makes you enjoy your training the most at the time is probably actually going to be the most important thing. And to be honest, the programming doesn't matter that much. As long as you're doing CrossFit, it's gonna work. And for 99.999% of us, you're going to get the same amount of fitness whether you're doing a random program, the best program. It doesn't matter, actually, for pretty much anybody. Even if you did different programmings every day of the week, you would still get super fit, especially if you're having fun. And that fun is allowing you to be more consistent at the gym. I think program hopping was demonized way too much, partially probably by people who were selling programming at the time, but program hopping is not bad. It's not nearly as bad as people say. This next one might be a little specific to me, but I got very caught up with the competition programming. Like what was happening happening in the open, what was happening at the games, what was happening at regionals or semifinals or whatever. I kind of centered my training around that. And that's really a very, very narrow view of what CrossFit is. Like there's so much of a wider array of stuff. You don't have to be doing handstand push-ups and kipping chest to bar pull-ups once every week. Like they're not a requirement. That's almost not even CrossFit if you're just doing those same things over and over again. And so like, I just wish I hadn't got caught up in the competition programming and what Dave Castro or whoever was programming these competitions was doing, because CrossFit is just so wide in what it can be. You don't have to just keep doing those things over and over again. Next up, find the perfect gym, not just a good gym. A lot of gyms have decent programming, decent community, decent whatever, that you can kind of just fit in and get stuck. And I wish that I had bounced around and tried out some more gyms when I first started, because I went to a gym, I was like 20 years old, and I think I was the only person in my 20s or even early 30s was like the next closest person to me. The equipment was okay, the programming was okay. There wasn't a whole lot of people that were like super into it. A lot of people just went and did the classes, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. It just wasn't quite the vibe that would have fit me right. And not that far away, there was another gym that I eventually went to that had so many people my age. I made so many friends. There was other people who just loved to work out. We'd train all the time, and it just kind of like fit better. And so not that anything was wrong with that gym. It was a good gym, but it just wasn't the perfect gym. So if you're going to start CrossFit, I would just recommend bounce around, try a couple of the gyms that are in your area and find the best one that really is going to fit you, because CrossFit is good. CrossFit works, but you don't want to get sucked into just being at a gym because it's good enough, which kind of brings me to my next point. And that is one of the biggest, maybe the biggest part of CrossFit that makes it so successful is the social aspect. The people, the accountability, the fun that the social part of CrossFit provides is so important to everything about it, that I would, again, recommend going to the right gym. And don't try and isolate yourself. Don't try and be Matt Fraser and train alone in your basement or your garage. Like, go out there, have fun. It doesn't have to be this put your head in the ground and grind until you die type of thing. Next up, I've kind of gone through some phases with my training. And one of the phases I went through was I would just program stuff with the intent of making myself sore. And this went on for way too long. And I just somehow got accustomed to being cripplingly sore. After a while, it got to the point where the thought of like bending over would like make me cringe. Like, cause I was just so used to my back being so sore and my hamstrings being so stiff that I just didn't even want to do that. And that's not normal. You don't need to train like that. Yes, there is something to putting some volume in and kind of beating yourself up. But if you're actually doing CrossFit and like there's so many stimuluses you can hit, being sore isn't always the thing that you need to be hitting every single day, every single week, just constantly being sore. It's not normal to be cripplingly sore and just slowly lose mobility. And that happened to me. And so if anybody's experiencing that, modify your training a little bit. Look at your training. Think about how you can modify it. It's still fine to be sore every once in a while, but if you're truly doing constantly varied and you're recovering correctly, you should not be just always destroyed, because there's so many other things to get good at. Okay, next up, just get through the warm-up. That has been my rule for getting me through workouts that I don't want to do over and over again. If I'm sitting at home, I had a long day at work, whatever, and I don't want to go to the gym, what I tell myself every time, go to the gym, do the warm-up, and then if you're feeling like it, you can leave. I tell myself that every time. Over the last 7 years, do you know how many times I've left after the warm-up? Twice. Only 2 times in 7 years did I go to the gym, warm up, and then still decide to leave. Most of the time, once I warmed up, I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. So I think this is a good rule. If you're ever feeling like you don't want to go to the gym, if you're ever feeling like you're too tired or whatever, give yourself a rule. Say, if I get through the warm up, then I can choose to go home from there. And most of the time you won't. And most of the time, breaking it down into a smaller piece like that just makes it more digestible. And you're like, okay, I can go and do the warm up and then leave. And you never do, but the thought of being able to leave if you wanted to is nice. And I think that is actually a good mentality for having success of getting to the gym over and over again. This next one I heard from Max El-Haj on the Training Think Tank podcast a few years ago, and I don't know why this stuck with me so much, but he said, good CrossFitters have a racing mentality. And for some reason, when I heard that, it like instantly changed the way I thought about competing or really trying to do well in CrossFit, because often what I would do is I would get into a workout and I would revel in the pain. I would just think about the pain. I would think about my breath. I would think about the reps. I would think about my form. I would think about all these things. And when Max El-Haj said good CrossFitters have a racing mentality, what he meant was they're not focusing on all of that. They're focusing on getting done faster. And as simple as that is, it probably gave me a 10% boost just by hearing that, because I would be in workouts and I would be like, oh, don't think about the reps. Don't think about this. Don't think about that. Just try and get it done faster. And I don't know, it sounds so silly in hindsight, but when I heard that, I was like, oh, just get it done faster. It's that simple. Don't think about all of the other stuff. Don't revel in the pain. Just get it done faster. Okay, this next one, I actually didn't have a huge problem with, but I've seen it over and over again, and that is just bite the bullet and get comfortable with hook grip. I know it's so uncomfortable when you first start, and everybody doesn't want to do it because it feels so weird and it's uncomfortable, but I just see it so many times. Just for the first week or two, just use hook grip every time. I know it's going to be uncomfortable. I know you might feel stupid and it feels wrong, but once you get comfortable with it, it's going to be such a big help, and you're going to have to do it eventually, so you might as well just force yourself to get comfortable with it right then and there. And then for me personally, I didn't use grips for like a year. I don't know why. I would just be like, oh, I don't need grips. And then I would rip, and then I wouldn't be able to do anything for 2 weeks, and then I would do something again, and then I would rip again because I didn't use grips, and then I would just continue that cycle. So if I could go back and tell myself, I'd be like, hey, just get grips. There's no need to rip your hands over and over again. It's going to slow down your training. It's going to take you out of the things you need to do. And yeah, those are the things I wish I knew when I started CrossFit. I would love to hear what you guys have to think. What are some things that you wish you had known when you started CrossFit, or if you could go back, you would tell yourself? Thanks for watching. Peace.